Irashaimase! Hello and welcome to Fitaurus Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fitaurus. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu this Saturday we have The Void Reigns Upon Her Heart, a shoot 'em up where you love the enemies. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. So as you can see from the title screen, The Void Reigns Upon Her Heart is in early access on Steam, but it was an interesting enough title that I still wanted to do a video on it. As we dive into the game itself, we have a couple modes we can play in. Story mode, where you play through 10 bosses as the game is built around a boss rush. Or you can play quick play, where you can battle just one set against a boss you've unlocked. You can also look at the bosses you've fought and unlock them for the quick play, as well as what gifts you've received, and the dreams that you've had. The dreams are basically the achievements for this game. So we'll go into the story mode. There are 2 playable characters currently available, though I haven't unlocked the second. Since this is in early access, what does that mean? Well, at this point, the developer has plans to add several more bosses and playable characters to the game itself. There are currently just the 2 playable characters, but by the end it's planned to have 5, and there are currently 14 bosses in the game, but by the end it's planned to have around 36. So we'll select the heart. Then here we have our difficulty setting. So there are levels 1 to 9 for the bosses or the monsters, and that's basically their difficulty. So I've got light rain, which starts the monsters at level 1, heavy rain, which starts them at 4, and I do not have the torrent rain mode available yet, so it just increases. These are your difficulty settings. We'll select light rain and start out at chapter 1. So we're playing the heart of the alien girl Zaraden, and she's basically been trapped by this void and these monsters, and the way that she's going to escape that is to love the monsters, love her enemies. So we've got 3 possible choices we can choose from for our first nightmare. There's Burning Veyeral, Voltage Veyeral. Oh, by the way, the game is developed by, Veyeral Games, and is published by the Hidden Levels. And then Synchron. Let's take the Voltage Veyeral fight. Then we see what gift we'll get for the love, and we jump into it. So as I mentioned, the game is built around a boss rush. So for the base, we have this game that's horizontal scrolling boss rush. And what do we have for spices? Well, for one thing, we're the alien girl's heart, and we're throwing love, all these small little hearts, at the enemies. The shots that we're firing are actually auto-fire. You don't actually have to press anything to fire. So what do we have as far as buttons are concerned? Well, we have the ability to charge up a shot, where if we hold down a charge button, we'll turn a beautiful rainbow hue, and we'll fire a charge shot, which does deal significantly more damage to the enemy. We also have the ability to do focus movement, where we can slow down our movement so we can dodge around, as this game is also a bullet hell. It doesn't really show it on the lower difficulty settings, but as you start to increase the difficulty of the enemies and fight harder and harder bosses, it definitely shows that it's far more of a bullet hell. And then we've also got a panic attack, where we can activate a panic-like shield, which will spread out from us, lasting for a certain amount of time, and it will defend us from enemy bullets. We only have 3 of those from the start of the game itself, but you can get more as you defeat bosses. Will get gifts. The gift we got in this time was a faster charge time. Then in addition to the gift, you get karma. Depending on what level of boss you fight and the various achievements you get throughout the fight, you'll get more karma, and the more karma means the better gifts or the better items that you'll receive. So that brings to light some of the roguelite elements we have. Each time we play the game, we'll be fighting different bosses and getting different gifts. So are your builds going to be different? The layout of the bosses you fight, since our 10 boss fights total, is going to be different. That's a really, really awesome system for the game itself. We also gain tetrids. Basically, each boss has an element that you will gain score for. and those tetrads in the end will ultimately allow us to unlock and get more information about the bosses and that we're fighting, as well as the gifts that we'll receive for defeating the bosses. Something that can be really useful in subsequent playthroughs. Scoring's also interesting as well. You might notice that the boss's life bar is on the bottom of the screen. If we continue to hit the boss without interruption or taking damage, then we build a combo. That's represented by the white on the boss bar. That white goes and reflects in points. So if we let our combo drop, we'll score that combo. So naturally you want to combo the boss as long as possible. And depending on the boss, it's very possible to get full combos on them, which will yield for your best point results. Those points are transferred into the tetrads that are there are 6 different tetrads, so each that are basically 6 different elements. And those are reflected in the different elements of the bosses themselves. And as I mentioned, those tetrads are used to unlock information or bosses that we can fight against in the quick play mode. And those are the basic systems that we have present here in The Void Rains Upon Her Heart. It's got a cute little story mode where you see the story of Zeraden herself. There is a light bit of nudity that's present there, but there's the option to go and turn that off. So if you're like not wanting to have that there, like that option is completely possible. Now here we have a challenge where we can get an additional gift if we complete that challenge. And the challenge this time around is score at least 1,443 motes. So we'll have to do our best not to lose our combo on this boss. Let's do it. So as far as, it is possible, at least with the number of bosses that we currently have in the game, that you will repeat several bosses throughout the course of your run. Although, once the game is complete and has more bosses, that'll be less likely. Well, and there we have it. That's The Void Rains Upon Her Heart, served up for your enjoyment. So, minus flavors, well, the bosses themselves, even though I am fighting like this boss for the second time, there are some bosses that just kind of feel samey. There are several that are orbs, there are a couple that are like worm-like bosses, and so, I would like a little bit more variety to the look of the bosses, but that's primarily my only real complaint, just some of the simplicity in the game design, or rather the visual design, at like this point in time. Plus flavors, I really like the roguelite elements that are present in the game. Having a different set of bosses to choose from each time, as well as the ability to I'll have a different build every time you play the game, is something that's really exciting and really interesting to me. Also, so the whole level system for the bosses and the boss bullet patterns, as you get more complex bosses, it gets really interesting. So here we did complete our challenge, and we got a paper cut for our heart, so heart damage +1 as well as max health, which is awesome, and we got an additional panic attack. And then the planned growth. So since this is an early access title, one thing I really appreciate is how the developer's taken the time to lay out what he plans the game to be in the end. It's really nice to see that he's working towards something that will ultimately be greater product than what we're seeing here. But as far as what's here, the game is really worth the price that he's asking for. And so if you like what you see here, I would highly encourage you to check out this game and support the developer. I'll include a link to the Steam page down below so you can check it out for more information yourself. And well, with that, that'll just about wrap it up for this week's episode of Shoot 'em Up Saturday. As always, I want to thank you so much for coming out and joining me, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.